We just finished up 30 minutes of Penn State football talk. That's to be released in the next several days. We have started our team previews for 2020. Look out for Boston College coming your way, as well as Nebraska, Maryland, Arkansas, Michigan as well. So again, in the next week, we're going to crank up our team previews for 2020 with, the shot clock is off. Unfortunately, I forgot to plug it in. We are 100 days to college football season if we get the season to start on time on August 29th for week 0, September 5th for everyone else in week 1. We got 20 on the line. Welcome to MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. We are taking calls tonight, 860-325-3687 to talk college football with you. 2 subjects to keep in mind. We will discuss the JT Daniels transfer, USC quarterback moving to Georgia, and of course, as I prefaced in the notification before I got the news about JT Daniels signing up with Georgia, and we'll have to investigate as to whether we anticipate him being eligible for the 2020 season. ESPN posted an article the other day looking at the best teams in college football history not to win the national championship. And for those of you who don't watch me on a regular basis or may have not seen any of my videos or me address this topic, national championships are overrated. I will not explain why right this second, but we will discuss that at a later date and have many times, and I'm sure it will come up in my defense for certain teams and my criticism of other teams. You will hear much of that analysis during some of the posts that we have sent out in recent days on our national championship replays. I have looked at particular seasons that have been requested to analyze the national championship race. Back in the poll era, what was voted concerning the national championship, what should have been decided, what that season would have looked like in the BCS era and now in the college football playoff era. I've looked at 1983, 84, and 1990. Actually, we've posted 83 and 90. 1984, I have yet to post, and we'll get that out. So this fine afternoon here in Connecticut, I have again had a 30-minute Penn State football discussion. That preview is coming out. Boston College as well. We've knocked that out. That's going to be posted soon. And also sat down with Brent Beard of First Coast News to run down our SEC coaches rankings. So you get my coaches rankings coming up very soon. I ranked all the coaches in the SEC from 14 all the way up to, I might as well say it, Nick Saban. Of course, I'm going to check out your comments on the live chat, of course, and of course, also take your calls. And right on cue, the first one's coming in on the night. Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline. The call will start at the beep. It's MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. Reasonable Gump here. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Might as well go ahead and tackle your topic you got posted here. I didn't give it too much thought because I just logged on YouTube and saw it, but I think you and I both deserve a bone throw right here. I'm going to go out and say 2013 Alabama and 2015 Ohio State. 2 best teams in the country those years that did not win the national title. Both of them because they blew a stupid loss before they even got to the game.
Yeah, so for that Alabama team, I'm going to pull up this season. I think before I pull up the results of the 2 seasons, and of course I'm more familiar with Ohio State, even though I would have, I'm sure, watched half of these Alabama games in 2013, that the Alabama situation was certainly where they played like a national championship team that entire season for the most part. Mm-hmm. And then they blew the game against Auburn, of course, the infamous kick 6, where Ohio State had talent, an overwhelming amount of talent, but they didn't play like a national champion until the final 2 or 3 games of the season. So Your team that particular year took on a Virginia Tech team at the Georgia Dome in week 1 and blasted them 35-10. I do remember that game well. Then there was that game at Texas A&M against Johnny Manziel in which he put up a ton of points, 49-42, but the game was not as close as the final score. You typically had a 2 and 3 touchdown lead.
Yeah. I remember watching that game and being pretty disgusted by it, but I mean, I kind of get your point, but still, giving up 40-something points to anyone is never acceptable.
Yeah, but it was more comfortable than 49-42.
Right. I mean, you are right. We had a 2 to 3 touchdown lead, and then we just kind of went, to that dumbass thing coaches do with prevent defense, and that's the worst thing you can do against a superstar quarterback. He's just going to score every possession once you start doing that. So that's why I got closer than it should have been.
Yeah, so no reason to march through all these games, but to look at the highlights would be, those first couple of weeks against Virginia Tech and Texas A&M. Tennessee 45-10. Okay, that LSU team, they were the typical post-2011 LSU team that lost 3 or 4 games, but Zach Mettenberger at quarterback, Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. at wide receiver, NFL players on defense, really good team. And you took care of them pretty well. You know, it was one of those games that was a good game through 3 quarters, and then you pulled away. I remember that one well, 38-17. And then you march into the Kick 6 game, undefeated, of course, having defeated Mississippi State 30-7. And we know what happened on the Plains. Yep. I think it's certainly a good call from both the standpoint of watching the team play, but also understanding the talent on the roster.
Well, and the thing is, I'm not even certain of how far above most other teams Alabama was in talent that year. I just know that we had a lot of our previous 2 teams, which were both national title teams, all still coming back, and namely our quarterback, A.J. McCarron, and we just had our system was still just in place, not missing a beat, and we were running over everybody. Except, I mean, you can include Texas A&M there if you want, but we're basically just running over everybody. I don't think anyone thought Florida State would have won if they would have met us in the national title. But we screwed up against Auburn with the whole Kick 6 thing. I never actually blamed Saban for trying to kick. I would have tried to kick. The only thing I would have done different is put some speedy guys out there to, in case, they did catch it and run it back, which is exactly what happened. But I know a lot of people. I don't watch your video or read the chat when I'm talking on the phone with you because there's a delay, so it kind of trips me up. But I'm sure a lot of people are pointing out that Alabama went on to lose to Oklahoma that year, which was considered a huge upset. And, there was no excuse for that at all. And I think that was before players were sitting out, so I don't think that's something you can point to. But it's the same thing that happened to us with Utah back in 2008. You get all the way up there, and then our players didn't want to be there, and they obviously didn't care enough to try and win. So it was an inexcusable loss, inexcusable way to go out in the season. But I definitely thought that entire season we were the ones everyone was looking at. And that was still kind of back in the time era where, everyone just kind of looked at Alabama as just in their own kind of league. I'm not saying that kind of, to my own horn, but I think you kind of know what I mean.
I do.
I mean, we just came off to 2 consecutive titles. It didn't look like we were missing a beat. We had our same quarterback, all the same receivers, still had 3 or 4 NFL running backs. Defense was still the Nick Saban defense I would like to see again. And just tripped up on a wacky finish in that Iron Bowl, and that just screwed everything up.
And what you just said
and I think the Ohio State 2015 is similar. Did you guys lose by 1 point, Michigan State or something?
It was the last play.
And then Michigan State was on to win the Big Ten?
The last second field goal.
Yeah, so almost the same thing. It said they actually made the field goal.
Exactly. And what you just said about the context of that Alabama season beyond 2013 means a lot, because if you just look at the schedule and you think, okay, this was a really good Alabama football team that rolled through most of its schedule, then they blew a game against Auburn. Sure, they could have won a national championship, but in the context that you just placed it, let's reverse ourselves and send ourselves back to 2013. That's after winning a national championship in 2009, an undefeated team, then being a dominant team that just slipped up in 2010, then winning another national championship in 11, and completely annihilating LSU and especially Notre Dame in national championship games as a two-time national champion that won those games easily, and then it walked into the Iron Bowl at 11-0. You're talking about dynasty type context. So it wasn't just, oh, this is a good team that had a really good season, then they blew a game. No, this is a program that was on a roll. And like you said, I don't have any issue with you stating that this program had separated itself at that point.
Yep. Well, yeah, that's. I could try and go back a lot farther into history and look up some teams that were blowing everyone away, but inexplicably lost. But again, I just saw your title, so that's the most recent one to my mind. And golly, that 2015 season though, man, that's still kind of. I would have paid a lot of money to be able to see Nick Saban and Urban Meyer get a rematch that year, man. I really want to see that.
And I know we can think of other, and I've got some calls coming in, and I'll just let those people know that your calls are going to drop, and I'll get to them as soon as I possibly can, but you may need to call back because we want to finish a couple points here. And one is that sometimes sports lets us down in the tournament format because we don't get the matchups that we really want to see, and certainly Michigan State was not up to it and didn't have the talent to compete with Alabama. And I think it's reasonable to believe that Ohio State, those guys that just won a national championship the year before, then would have been challenged with the moment in playing another elite program with another elite roster to say, let's kick it into gear. This is going to be a war. This is going to be just a clash of just super teams. And it would have been a phenomenal spectacle to see those two teams go at it again. Yep.
Two teams and just a spectacle of the two head coaches at that point. But anyway, man, you got some more calls. That's my answer to the topic, and you have a great night, all right?
I appreciate it, Reasonable Tom. Have a good one. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. I apologize to anybody who calls while I'm on the line with somebody else because I don't have the capabilities to put you on hold. So the phone rings, I'm sure, for you, and then it drops off. But just please call back. The number's right there, 860-325-3687. And I will certainly address the Alabama loss to Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl. So this is the way I look at situations like that. All credit needs to be given to Oklahoma for winning the game. There is no excuse for Alabama losing that game as a 2-touchdown favorite. They're a team like other teams that could make the excuse they didn't want to be there. But if you're competitors, if you're athletes, then you're responsible for playing in the moment against another top program, and you should be ready for that game and prepared. So there's no, it didn't really matter, no excuse for it. But at the same time, it's reasonable to know and conjecture that certain teams show up for bowl games in more of a focused mindset and preparedness to play than other teams. That's all there is to it, and it's reasonable to believe that Alabama was not in the state of mind in the 2014 Sugar Bowl to meet Oklahoma, and they paid the consequences of losing by 2 touchdowns. But all credit to Oklahoma. There was a game to be played, and they won it. All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Navy Thomas 8, baby.
Navy, how are you?
Hey, I just wanted to, over the last week, I've been watching old football videos because
love it.
There's nothing else I want to watch. And so I started watching Florida games.
Okay.
And I got into the old football helmets that had a change of the football helmets.
How old are we talking about? When you say old football games.
Off the top of my man, I can't remember how far back, but they had a FU. I will say it's not FIU, but they actually had FU on the sides. And damn, man, I wish I could remember what year that was. I can't remember. I think that might have been an early Nebraska-Florida game in the Sugar Bowl.
Well, let's understand,
70s?
first of all, that, Navy, that it's the University of Florida. It's not Florida University, so I am struggling to remember there being a time in which Florida would have had FU on the side of the helmet. And maybe somebody
Maybe it
would have
was
caught that
UF or U with the F inside, but there was definitely not UIF or FUI, any of that thing, because, that would be the international Florida helmet. That it's just something for you to look up. Look back to the Sugar Bowl back in the 70s, because Nebraska went into that game. Nebraska won.
Tom, I see here that you were getting on me in the live chat for being late. Am I late from time to time?
Don't worry, man. My brain ain't current daily anyway, so it's the brain stroke thing that.
Sure. So Nebraska and Florida is what we're looking for. An old Nebraska-Florida
back
game.
In the 70s.
I don't remember Nebraska.
Back in the 70s in the Sugar Bowl, I think it is.
Now they played in the Fiesta Bowl in 1995.
No.
Okay.
Back in the 70s in the Sugar Bowl. That was one of the games I just found about
there it is.
4 or 5 days ago.
There, yeah, okay, we've got it right here. Keith Jackson doing the game. We've got the 1974 Sugar Bowl, Nebraska and Florida. There it is. I do not remember.
There it is.
I do not remember.
There it is, my friend. Now, just find the picture of that UF Iowa or UF Florida helmet.
Okay.
And it wasn't orange. It was blue back then.
Okay, I'm looking at the game right now. I got the game on here. I'm looking at Tom Osborne.
But I just want to make sure that you can cover this and send it to Dennis, because I love all his comments, so it's all good.
All right. I don't know what you want me to cover here concerning the 74 Sugar Bowl. I'll be happy to watch the game and cover it if you'd like me to, but I love watching.
No, I'm not asking you to cover it. I'm just talking about that helmet. That's the one thing that you've got the helmet behind you that says the orange with the gator on the side.
Sure.
And back then they had the blue and the UF, and I think it had another color on the other side. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm not getting a clear enough shot of this game and the Florida helmet to know what they've got on the side. They were wearing their blue jerseys and Nebraska was wearing the white, and I see Nebraska ripping off a nice long run there in the first quarter. All right. Good stuff.
No, this was not a discussion of my Huskers. It was just my discussion of Florida changed their helmet later. I don't know when they went to orange with gators on both sides. And the old one used to be UF, and
I started watching college football in the late 70s. The first season I really remember watching was 1977, and the Gators had the look that you see on my set here at that point. Now, they have messed around with throwback looks where they had just the F on the side of their helmet with a white helmet. They've worn that recently. But this has pretty much been the standard Gators helmet since the late 70s at least. But I can't see from this game. They don't show any Florida players close enough for me to tell what's on their helmet exactly. But
anyway, the only thing that blew my mind is all the way back when I grew up and born, the Big 8, the helmets never changed. Then we went to the Big 10, and even as I was growing up, the Big 10 never changed the helmet marks. And just when I was happened back in history, I ran into that Florida team at the versus Nebraska in the Sugar Bowl, and they had all that weird ass helmet thing, and I can't even remember. I thought his coach was Dooley back then. I don't know, but whatever. I just wanted to talk about the helmets.
Georgia's coach was Vince Dooley. The Georgia coach, Vince Dooley.
I don't know, man.
All right, Tom, appreciate you calling in, man.
Just things I want to up at you and let you deal with it. So
okay. Thanks, Tom.
We'll talk to you later, my friend.
You have a good one. Thanks, I appreciate it. Navy Thomas, one of our core members right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, part of our base. Been watching forever. And so we always have time for Navy Thomas, taking us back to the 1974 Sugar Bowl. I did not recall Nebraska and Florida playing in a Sugar Bowl. And even though I didn't watch it, I'm pretty up to date and knowledgeable about games that were played before I started watching college football. And I thought that would have stuck out in my brain that those two schools got together. Of course, they did 20 years later at the Fiesta Bowl, 62-24. All right, let's run down. Let's see. We've got, again, JT Daniels transferring from USC to Georgia. We'll have to see if he is eligible. Let's get to that news first before we run down some of your answers to best teams in college football not to win a national championship. And Buckeye State Sports is throwing his 2019 Buckeyes a ring. And understandably so. A very close game, controversial calls. Could have played LSU in the national championship game. Probably would have been a better game. But to look at the news of the day, again, the big one is right here. JT Daniels determines that Georgia is the place for him. I didn't see any speculation about JT Daniels winding up at Georgia. I had my thoughts about where he should go or where he could go based on quarterback situations across the country, and certainly read of other places, and I did not see Georgia popping up anywhere. The article, according to Mark Schlabach of ESPN, Georgia's added second transfer quarterback on Thursday with former USC starter JT Daniels. And having trouble with the phone. Come on. There we go. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. This is Big Ed.
I'm sorry,
hello?
sir. As soon as you gave your name, it cut out. Who's on the line?
Yeah, this is Big Ed.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I wanted to get your opinion on LSU, and do you think that they have something going or not? I guess to compare to Clemson or Alabama, do you think they can get the ball rolling and compete? Yeah.
So we know that Nick Saban built that program at LSU, and then Les Miles carried it on through. And after going to a BCS championship game in 2012, they underachieved for the next 7 seasons, going 8-4, 9-3. All those seasons, they lost 3 or 4 games with top 5 recruiting classes, and then boom, Joe Brady, Joe Burrow, Ed Orgeron, who at that point, he came in mid-2016. So he didn't do a whole lot in 2016. They had okay seasons in 2017. 2018, they were better, of course, finished off with a 10-win season, top 10 finish, and then boom, they explode. So it is difficult, and you'll hear me say this in my SEC coaches rankings that are going to be released here in the next few days. I've got to see this out of Coach O. I've got to see that he can do this with other personnel, both on the coaching staff and on the field, because he hadn't quite elevated this program without the help of Brady and Burrow, and especially I'm thinking Joe Brady. So we'll see if the offensive staff, Coach Ensminger in particular, was able to learn anything from what they did last year. But if you're asking me if LSU is an elite program and up with Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State, not in my mind. I need to see it again. Not that they have to win the national championship, but I need to see them continue this at near this rate. But I'm not completely sold. No, I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't be any great shock. They've collected great talent, and they did it last year. They were better than anyone. So I wouldn't be shocked if they were able to maintain it. It just hasn't been proven to me.
You know, I've kind of always seen Coach O as a motivator, as opposed to a strategist, a guy who wants to get the most out of his players.
Yep.
You know,
Definitely, much like
do
Les
you
Miles.
think? Do you think that kind of Do you think that kind of coach has a place in today's landscape?
I think that coach definitely has a place in today's landscape if he has the right offensive and defensive coordinators. Especially in this day and age, you have to have a passing game coordinator, somebody who develops quarterbacks, somebody who can coordinate a passing game. The passing game is paramount in today's football. We saw LSU dominate last year with a passing game that nobody could stop. Even a Clemson defense that was #1 in the nation in yards per play against and points per game and on down the line gave up 49 points. So you can be a CEO type like Ed Orgeron is now or a Barry Switzer was years ago if you've got really strong coordinators that can be the brains of the operation, the masterminds of the football being played on the field, and you're more CEO, man who deals with the media, deals with the team, as you mentioned, is an inspirational leader, motivational leader of the clubhouse, and has the respect as just a CEO type guy. Sure, it can be done. You just have to have the right staff.
Okay, so more along that point, do you think that Bo Pelini fits well with how LSU is ran today as opposed to when he was there in 2007?
Well, the football in the SEC is played much differently today than it was in 2007. But great coaches typically are able to adjust. Bo Pelini was not a great head coach. He was a good head coach. He was decent, but he was a great defensive coordinator. Now, we have no indication as to whether he has adapted his approach to today's game, or at least for those of us who aren't scouting Youngstown State, we don't know. if he's been able to adjust, but I would think so. He knows what's going on. He's a smart guy and knows the way offensive football is played these days. I think that's a tremendous hire on the surface. He did it once there. He built a great defense. He ran a great defense. And even during the beginning of his stay at Nebraska, I think it gets lost that they had great defensive play at Nebraska when they transitioned to the Big Ten. They played a better defensive game at Nebraska under Bo Pelini in the Big 12 championship game against Colt McCoy and limiting them to 13 points and just giving them all sorts of fits than even Alabama did in the national championship game. So Bo Pelini can coach defense, yeah. But again, the game's played differently, but I would think that he's been able to adjust, and we'll see that this year.
Okay, well, my last question is, who do you think wins the West?
Oh, boy. I like Alabama. I have not made my final prediction.
I figured.
That's going to come in August, but I like Alabama.
Okay.
I would say that Alabama's
All
going
right.
to win 11 games, and LSU's probably only going to lose to Alabama. Maybe they slip up one other time. So we've got two teams that are going to go anywhere from 10-2 to 12-0 between those two, and I think they're still the class of the league. And that's what it is right there, and it comes down to a game, although they're going to play this year in Death Valley, so that's going to be a difficult challenge for the Crimson Tide.
It hasn't been a good omen for LSU the last few times, though.
No, not for quite some time. Boy, when's the last time Alabama won at LSU? Or when's the last time LSU won at home against Alabama? I should phrase it that way.
I'm not sure.
It's been forever.
Yeah.
It has been forever because, of course, Alabama hasn't lost to LSU before last year, going back to 2011.
8 years.
In Tuscaloosa. And they play them in the even-numbered years. I think it's been something like 04, 06.
Yep. All right, Mark.
Appreciate the call. You have a good night. Last time LSU beat Alabama at home, I'm guessing was in 2004. That's my guess. We know that they haven't beaten until this year, 2019, that they had not beaten Alabama since 2011. That game was in Tuscaloosa. And they play in the even years in Death Valley. Well, there you go. The Alabama team coming off the national championship win in 2009, the 2010 team did lose by a field goal in Death Valley at LSU 24-21. So that would be the last time that LSU beat Alabama at home. So I was off by 2 games. 2010. There you go. So we've got some interesting answers, some fairly predictable answers, but still solid answers, definitely from everyone chiming in. And the last one coming in that I've recorded here is from Shane Roth, the Ohio State team in 2006 that looked like the best team in the country. Consensus number 1, start to finish. Beat number 2 Michigan in that classic 42-39 game. Had the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. Plenty of NFL talent on both sides of the ball as usual. Then ran into a buzzsaw against Florida in which they were dominated in that game. They didn't just lose that game. They were dominated in that game, losing Ted Ginn on the opening kickoff and then losing the game 41-14. I think we lost our call, unfortunately. I don't know what happened there. So call on back, 860-325-3687. So the Buckeyes in 06 losing to Florida in the national championship game in Arizona. And what really was the telling tale in that game is that the Ohio State offensive line just could not handle Florida's front seven. Florida coming off the edge, Florida up front, the interior and edge rushers for Florida were dominant. Great, all-time great front seven in Florida under Urban Meyer, and it would have been Will Muschamp, correct? Was he the defensive coordinator at that point in Florida? Or was he with Texas at that point? I cannot get the speaker to come on. Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
It's Nate.
Hey, Nate. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on tonight?
So I didn't get a chance to talk to Pete last night, so I was going to say, but I was going to say to him, but I was also going to say to you that I asked Lou about if I'm going to ask you too, but if there's going to be like a short season,
Yeah.
do you think it will be fair to the teams, all the teams, if they don't get a bowl bid or to college football playoff, or what's your thoughts?
So you're asking me if there's not a full season, if it's going
Yeah,
to
like
be
a
fair
half.
to the teams, if what happens?
Yeah.
If what happens?
Oh, if the college football playoff committee selects like Ohio State, if like whoever has the most wins in the half season, like for example for Ohio State and maybe Bama again, I don't know, would it be like a what was it going to be? What was I going to say? I forgot. But what I'm asking is like if there was a short season, like a half a season, is that going to cause the college football playoff or no?
Is that going to affect the college football playoff?
Yeah, if there was a half a season due to the pandemic.
Any game that's not being played among contenders is going to affect the college football playoff. So certainly, yeah,
Okay.
if there's only half a season, then there are going to be a lot of games played that would have helped to determine who's going to be selected to the college football playoff.
Okay. See, that's what I'm worried about. I don't want all the teams to be at stop at a half season. You know what I mean? Like I don't want them to be like jealous that they didn't make the playoff or any bowl games or that. You know what I mean, right? It doesn't make any. Well, I don't know if you know what I mean. I'm just saying. I'm just worried if it is a half season.
Well, please don't worry, Nate. There's nothing to worry about. It's football, so let's not get worked up too much about it. They're just playing football.
Okay.
They're going to determine who wins the championship. So let's keep this in mind, Nate. And I don't know how long you've been watching me.
Well, I've been watching you since a year.
Okay,
now.
For about a year. So you probably heard me
Yes.
say this before, that I don't
Yes.
put a whole lot of stock in what the college football playoff selection committee determines anyway.
Yeah.
It's not and I have respect for them. I don't want to state this the wrong way. I have a great deal of respect for them and their college football knowledge, but they are given a near impossible task to look at 130 teams, well, actually about 75 in the Power 5 and 5
Yeah.
conferences, and fit those teams into 4 slots. When there aren't enough games played against conferences to determine who's better. So it's not an objective system anyway. So there's controversy every year. There was the least amount of controversy this past year. It was pretty clear cut. But there will be controversy every year. And if somebody doesn't think so, I'll raise my hand and let them know why there's some question as to who should have made the playoff. So I don't put a lot of credibility in the system to begin with, so I'm not that concerned with the system being less credible this year.
Okay, that's a pretty good statement. And I have 2 more questions, and then I can get off so you can call, have a call with other guys and girls. 2 more questions. For Nebraska, do you want Scott Frost to go to somewhere else, or do you want him to stay for a year or 2?
Do I personally want Scott Frost to stay or to go?
No,
to Nebraska?
Yeah, stay or go. Like, that's what I'm asking.
I have no investment in the Nebraska football program, so I could care less if Scott Frost comes or goes. I think it's good for the Nebraska, as it stands right now, I think it's good for the Nebraska program that Scott Frost is the head coach. I still believe in his abilities. If you're asking me that, I will tell you that if he continues to flounder at 4 and 5 wins for the next 2 years, then I will certainly think that he needs to be shown the door. But as it stands right now, I saw enough progress out of Nebraska football, which wasn't a whole lot, but I saw enough progress out of Nebraska football. And more importantly, I'm leaning on what Scott Frost has accomplished elsewhere as Oregon offensive coordinator and UCF head coach to determine, and based on his understanding of Nebraska football, the program, the facilities, the culture, that he is the right guy for the job. I still believe that. So I believe that it's a good thing that Scott Frost is Nebraska's head coach.
Okay. Thank you for the opinion, because, I'm a hot divider with the Michigan and Nebraska. So my last question before I get off is, will Michigan beat Ohio State? That I don't know, but that's my question.
Okay. Will Michigan beat Ohio State? Sometime in the history of time, I'm going to guarantee you, Nate, that Michigan will beat Ohio State. At some point in history, it will happen, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all I want to hear.
10 years from now, you might be an old man, but it's going to happen.
I hope not. I hope it doesn't. I don't know. I don't want it to do. I don't want the game being during World War III or something. But that's all I have, Mark. Have a good day and have a good night. Okay.
Thank you so much, Nate. Appreciate the call. All right. The Ohio State dominance over Michigan is certainly because Ohio State has had a significantly better program for much of the last 16 years, and winning 15 of those games. And it's not a coincidence that Ohio State's one loss was when they had an interim coach between 2 coaching legends.
Call or 2 to decline.
Otherwise, Ohio State has had a significantly better program, and we're not talking about Ohio State winning 15 years in a row against Rutgers. We're talking about Ohio State dominating Michigan, that was down for about 3 to 5 years under Brady Hoke, and before that, Rich Rodriguez. But other than that, has been a top 15 program. But Ohio State's still significantly better, and then they have just blown up the last 2 years to just annihilate them. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Jesse.
Hey, Jesse, what's going on?
Not much. I have no idea who the best team to not win the national championship is.
That's all right. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many
Sure.
options for that, really. But I wanted to just sit here and bring up, because I watched a video of the 2007 season the other day.
Okay.
I mean, like we're talking. Kansas was ranked number 2 and was about to be in the BCS championship.
They
like,
sure were.
do people remember that?
I do.
Kansas.
But it happened so fast.
Oh, I love that game.
It's hard to remember. Tommy Reesing at quarterback.
Oh yeah, I don't remember the players' names and all that, but I remember as a kid, like I actually like put that game on my television and I watched it from start to finish. Missouri versus Kansas. I was pulling for the Tigers. I wanted them to get in there because it basically what it was either the winner of that game, if they won the next two games, was in the BCS championship. And those were like nobodies at the time.
Oh, I
Hello?
remember it well. Sure.
I love that game. It was just two nobodies, like per the BCS era, and we got a lot of those.
Aqib Talib, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL over the last 10 or 12 years, played for Kansas.
I remember him well. I just wanted to bring that up to everybody, like the best team not to win the national championship. Remember 2007? We had so many teams.
Yeah, that was a free for all.
And you remember?
I should probably.
Oh yeah, you remember
I should probably address that season. You know, West Virginia was in the mix. Ohio State and LSU.
Yeah, they were
at the championship game. West Virginia was there. Missouri and Kansas. Oklahoma had a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think who else would have been in the mix besides those teams. Georgia kind of had a shot. A lot of people thought they were actually the best team by the end of the season.
How awesome would it be that if every college football season was that bonkers?
We don't have that anymore.
You know?
We have.
No, we don't.
Clemson,
I love that though.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. You got the five major teams that like, and I mean, I'm a Clemson fan. Like, I like the fact that we're kind of like guaranteed in every year, but like I don't like the fact of that because people disclaim us for that.
Sure.
It's one of those things.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna. Am I getting another? I'm getting another call.
All right.
But
if it's more important than us, then you can certainly move on.
No.
Okay.
No, it's not. It's one of those. You get those like random calls from somebody that you don't know. It's like I don't know nobody in Texas.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what's going on. But I just wanted to bring up the 2007 season and point out to people that Kansas was in contention for a national championship back in 2007.
And
maybe Les Miles can bring it up back up to that. No.
And that's probably the example of the biggest stretch of a bottom feeder being that close. Like I can come up with some interesting, that were kind of mid-season flukes. Like Mississippi State had a decent team in 2014, but they were. This is a great question for everyone. If they can remember the first four teams that were in the very first college football playoff release of the first season of the college football playoff, when the selection committee.
There were two teams from Mississippi.
There were two teams from Mississippi. Very good, Justin. Ole Miss and Mississippi State. There were three teams from the SEC because Auburn was in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know who the fourth team was. They were probably Oregon or somebody.
Maybe I think it was Oregon or Ohio State. It was either Oregon or Ohio State.
It wasn't Ohio State, I know, but it was either Oregon or Florida State who went undefeated in the regular season. But that was 7 weeks into the season, and Mississippi State clearly showed that they weren't in that class over the next half of the season. They lost 3 games. They lost the Orange Bowl. They were a good team, but not anywhere close to that. South Florida in that
not a playoff team.
No, South Florida in that same 2007 season. I don't know.
They were ranked number 2. Like I said, I just watched the preview or like the recap.
Yes. Ranked number 2 about 8 or 9 weeks deep into the season. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy about the South Florida story is that was their, I think, second year of actually, or either their first or I think it was their second year of actually being, at the time, a Division I team, Division 1A team. That really kind of what, before we had all the FCS, FBS, and things like that. But that was bonkers.
Yeah, I
to
can
me.
give you another good. I often say on here that the greatest turnaround in college football history, and I always ask people to show me another one that was more drastic, was when Auburn was 0-8 in the SEC in 2012, and then they turned around and went to the BCS championship
And won every, yeah. They swept the SEC, swept everybody, and then just
came within seconds of winning the national championship. That's the biggest turnaround. But in terms of that would be like what happened with Kansas. Now, Kansas was not Kansas that we've seen over the last 10 years, going 1-11 and 2-10 every year. But they were playing 500 ball most of the time, and then suddenly, boom, yeah, they shot it. It would be like, what do you think? It would be like Texas Tech or South Carolina or.
Heck, Texas Tech actually had a little bit of a chance to go. Well, I won't say they had a chance to go to the national championship. They straight up ruined Texas' chance to go to the national championship.
Michael Crabtree.
Yeah, Crabtree. I was about to say that.
So that was about how good Kansas was at that time. So they weren't as horrible as we remember Kansas being over the last 10 years, but it was like a team like that just jumping into the fray all of a sudden and being, and what legitimized their season was then they went to the Orange Bowl and they killed Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
They beat them by like 3 touchdowns. They finished, I think, number 3 in the country.
Yeah, they did. No, that's exactly where they finished.
Okay. Let's see here. The final 2007.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm throwing out there. That's what I remember off the top of my head. Yeah, the final. Well, they only lost 1 game, but they ranked them at number 7 in the AP.
Oh.
LSU, Georgia, USC, Missouri, Ohio State, West Virginia, Kansas.
They ranked Missouri in front of them?
So I'm looking at the January.
I know Missouri won the head-to-head, but still.
Yeah, I'm looking at the final January 8th final AP poll after the national championship game. They dropped Ohio State all the way from number 1 to number 5. Can't completely understand that, but anyway, that's fine. Georgia. What was interesting about that season as well is that Hawaii was undefeated, and nobody.
I know, and they got destroyed by Georgia.
Sure. Nobody truly thought they were that good, but there was an argument out there. This team's undefeated. What do you do with them?
You let them get killed by a team that's actually good?
Yeah. So, yeah. Interesting season.
But that to me, I would love more 2007s. In a sense. Just that chaos. I like that.
Oh, I would love to see it. We're sitting right here in May, and we pretty much know anybody who has half a brain about college football has a pretty good chance of picking 3 of the 4 college football playoff teams.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, let me ask you this: what do you think was the best quarterback matchup of 2019? 2 best quarterbacks going against head to head.
Now, are we talking about
who you think that was?
Are we talking about the 2 best?
Yeah, 2 best quarterbacks. Not exactly the best game, just the best quarterbacks going against each other.
They both had a bad game, but they were just the 2 best quarterbacks
on the
field at the same time. I don't think there's any question.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence, right?
I kind of agree with that, but in my opinion, I would actually say I think it was Fields and Lawrence.
Okay, you were going to go that route. I was thinking of that, but I was also thinking Burrow and Tua.
There's a handful of competitions between elite quarterbacks in 2019 that we could put on the list. But me personally, I just think Trevor versus Fields.
And those definitely were the four guys.
The best.
Not to take anything away from
yeah.
Hurts, but to watch him play quarterback is not like watching the other four guys.
Jalen Hurts is a damn athlete. I'll say that. Like, I can't. Yeah, I mean, the man is physical. I wouldn't want to go one-on-one with him in any sense, you know. But in terms of quarterback, I'm gonna have to lean it towards the other three.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
Hey, Mark, I appreciate you taking my call. Let's get on. Maybe take. I haven't heard any other people calling in, but I'll let you get some other call-ins. So,
all right, man.
Y'all have a good night.
You chiming in.
Take care.
Have a good one. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do what probably half of you are doing, and that's I'm going to keep an eye on the Ohio State-Miami game, because even though the Buckeyes are a huge underdog in this game, I have a feeling. I got a feeling they got a chance. You guys out there do a much better job than I do of keeping up with this stuff. And what it is right now is, of course, this Thursday night replay that ESPN does, which I know something about, wink, wink, that ESPN does in replaying these college football games. Because what I was doing as I was working on videos for the channel a few hours ago is, and probably few of you can relate to this, I was watching the Game 5 and then Game 1 of the 1988 World Series. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, I can flip from over here. Issues. Yeah. There we go. It took me forever. My batteries must be running dead on my remote. Canes leading 7-0. A minute left in the first quarter. Chris Gamble. Oh, man, that guy used to play every play of the game and on special teams as well. 31 on the line, so obviously not a huge night here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. I'm going to carve through the rest of the chat and also read off your selections for best team to not win the national championship. And I apologize to not credit your handles there, because I had to jot these down and I can't do everything at the same time. So I just jotted down the teams and the years. Somebody said 1994 Penn State. Of course, they went undefeated. And under a legitimate system, they would have played for a national championship. So, again, this is what's wrong with college football. And hey, if somebody paid me enough, or I had a way of actually making money doing it,
the call will start at the beep
on YouTube, I would carve through every season. But not enough of you enjoy that. But some of you really love the national championship replays we've been posting, 1983, 84, and 90. But, man, I would look at 1994 as well, when Penn State got screwed. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McD Sportsport. How are you doing?
Hey, McD. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I wanted to talk to you about two things.
Yep.
If that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. The first thing is I'm tired of a
coming into this fall getting spoken about very highly. You want to know what team that is?
Oh, let me. I'll try to take a guess. You were sick of a particular team. I would tend to think it was a Big Ten team, but I don't know. Maybe not.
No.
Let me think.
No.
I'm going to guess Florida.
You're correct.
Bam. Do I know you well, McD? From all our conversations, I know you pretty well. Okay, why not the Gators?
Because I just don't believe in Dan Mullen. I just don't believe him. I don't think he's a national championship head coach. I don't think he's anywhere close to Georgia. I mean, in the previous call that you were talking about the first 4 teams that in the college football playoffs, Mississippi State being the #1 team in the first ever release of the college football playoff rankings in 2014 was his greatest achievement in his coaching career, in my opinion. I mean, granted, he had some signature wins, of course, but I mean, I just don't think he's a national championship head coach. I don't think Florida is that close to Georgia. I think they're a lot closer to Tennessee than what people would think. And I actually think that Tennessee's going to beat them this year in Week 4.
Okay. Let's understand, McD. First of all, he took over a program at Mississippi State that was not very good. Now, he didn't do wonders. I think sometimes that he's given a little bit too much credit at Mississippi State. If you go back and look at the records, he had 3 ranked teams, 3 top 25 finishes. It's not like he was a mainstay in the top 25. He had 3 ranked teams in like his last 8 years. So it wasn't like they were regularly finishing in the top 25, but they were much improved. He brought it to respectability where they were pretty much automatic to go to a bowl game every year. Go 7-5, 8-4 was pretty much the criteria, and then they did have the one breakout season where they went to the Orange Bowl and got smashed by Georgia Tech. But look at what he's done at Florida, McD. And yes, he hasn't finished the deal yet, but it's only 2 years in, and he took them from a 4-win team to a top 10 finish and a major bowl win, and then another top 10 finish and a major bowl win.
He got lucky in both of those bowl matchups on who he was facing. Both of them.
He got lucky. How did that happen? He just got lucky.
Well, Michigan, I don't want to start barking up that tree, but he's taking Michigan seriously. And B, he got to the Orange Bowl against a ACC tie-in, and the ACC down right now. So the second best team was a 9-3 Virginia team that just got blown out by Clemson in an ACC championship game. So I don't. He got lucky in that. So
I don't even think they were 9-3, were they? Anyway. Okay, yeah, they didn't play a really good team. You know, you expect when you play in the Orange Bowl, you're going to play one of the 10 or 15 best teams in the country, and they played more like the 35th best team in the country. Sure, I get that, but he can't line up the teams against them. Look at the 2 losses they had this past season. They lost to Georgia, a top, 5, 6, 7 team in the country by a touchdown. And they may have. It's arguable that they played LSU better than anybody the entire season.
I disagree with that. I think there's a team better in their own conference. 2 teams better, I think, in their own conference. Separated them better.
I said it's arguable.
I don't think it is.
Florida was the only team that had a lead against LSU deep in the second half.
That is true. But I mean, I just don't think he's a championship head coach. I think he's a really good head coach. I think he could probably even make a few college football playoff berths if everything bounces the right way. But winning a championship, I don't think he will win a championship at Florida. I just don't.
McD, you are going to be sorely disappointed and have a lot of arguments against my SEC coaches rankings when they come out here pretty soon. You're not going to like them.
I'm not saying. I know he's a good coach. I'm not saying he's a bad coach or anything. I just don't think he's a championship level head coach. I would take Saban, Kirby Smart, I would take Jimbo Fisher because he's a championship head coach. Ed Orgeron, and that will pin him at 5. I mean, Gus Malzahn, I think, is a coach I would think of. I think he's in that realm.
But McD, you've got to understand that nobody's winning championships at Mississippi State, so you can't judge him on a championship level at Mississippi State.
He was not the one in the country.
Nobody's going to go, yeah, to his credit, nobody's going to go to Mississippi State and win national championships or compete for SEC championships. It's not going to happen. So he did a really good job at Mississippi State. Now he's in year 3 at Florida, so he's had 2 years, and he improved them greatly. Now, if we're having this conversation in 5 or 6 years and he has yet to do anything at Florida, then I get your point. But as of right now, he's done a really good job at Florida. He's upgraded the program significantly, and they're ready to challenge Georgia.
I'll say this right now. Florida will lose to Georgia this year, and I think it might be by 2 possessions. I really don't think they're that close to Georgia. From what I've seen, every time they go up against Georgia, I mean, that Georgia game last year was really 24-10 in my opinion. A garbage touchdown got scored late by Florida. The year before, granted, I think he got to, I want to say he got it to 23-17 before they bust the door open. Georgia did, but I don't think anybody really expected Florida to really compete in that game, or at least like win that game. So I just don't think that he's a championship head coach. I think he's a very good head coach. As I said, if things bounce the right way, he might make a college football playoff a few times, maybe even win an SEC championship or 2. But he is not a championship head coach. I've seen enough. So
All right, McD.
And that one other quick thing to say, I watched your video of the top 10 underrated non-conference games.
Yes.
I think Maryland versus West Virginia is a big underrated non-conference game.
It's so underrated, McD, that it didn't make my under the radar top 10.
I think it's a big game for both teams. I think that game's going to say a lot about both teams. I know West Virginia gets Florida State in week 1, but I think that Maryland game is going to say a lot more about West Virginia than the Florida State game, because I can't wait for that game. To me, that's the turning point for both of those teams. So just want to give that game a honorable mention. But that's all I really have, Mark. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, McD.
And go Turk.
Can you see
West Virginia.
Can you see the screen for the live stream right now?
Yeah, wondering if referee Terry Porter watching.
That's not what I'm drawing your attention to. Can you see? You see all these notes right here?
Yeah.
Those are my Maryland notes for my Maryland season preview right there. I've been doing my homework.
Yes, sir.
There it is. We're going to get you all the Terps.
Yeah, can't wait for that video. I'm sure I'll call up and talk to you about that.
All right, McD. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Our guy McD Sports 4. I was trying to record this. Man, I'm suddenly having issues with my remote for some reason. I can't even record this. I want to hear. I've seen this game a million times, but I would like to hear the commentary. If I'm, you guys can let me know in the live chat. But did they just have 3? I saw Jonathan Vilma and possibly Ken Dorsey. Are they actually talking about? So they're talking about the game, obviously. But it would be very interesting to have them mix Ohio State and Miami players from the game to have them talk at the same time. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
MSU number 1 fans.
Hey, MSU number 1 fan. How are you?
Very good.
Sorry about last week. You couldn't hear me and all that
Oh,
stuff.
that's okay. You're loud and clear this time around.
Yeah, I was using my mom's phone last week. And I think Michigan State had a shot in 2016, wasn't it?
They have a shot to do what?
They had a shot to win the national championship in 2016, wasn't it?
So in 2016 they went 3-9. I don't believe they had a national championship that year.
Oh, I meant 2015,
Year
2016.
before, yep. Year before they went to the college football playoff.
I meant, yeah.
They got nicked by Alabama though in that game.
Yeah. I mean, if they had a 16 state playoff, Big Ten could have sent Iowa, Michigan State, and Ohio State.
If they had a 16 playoff?
Yeah.
Why
That
did
should
you
make
need a
sense.
bigger playoff? You were already in the playoff.
Yeah, they just got Iowa and Ohio State in the mix.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. I would like to thank Navy Thomas for his service.
Absolutely. I appreciate you saying that. That's a great sentiment on your part. Yeah, I should do that on a more regular basis as well. Thank him for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you think about it, a lot of teams that I think what year was it? Rutgers was close to going to the national championship. I forget what year it was.
So this is an interesting call on your part, MSU #1 fan, because that almost seems laughable, but people should recognize. I don't know that they were close to a national championship, but I'm almost certain the year was 2006. They started.
Yeah, they were
9-0.
They beat the number.
They beat
the third team, Louisville, right?
Good call. Excellent call, MSU #1 fan. You guys are doing me up proud tonight with these calls on these near national championship teams.
I have Rutgers and Maryland and Michigan State, all four of them beating Ohio State. Just to give the Michigan fans and Nick D some comfort there.
So let me get this straight. Rutgers, Maryland, and Michigan State are all going to beat Ohio State this year.
Yep, not Michigan in the next. You got to help your older brother out a little bit.
Well,
you got to help him out. You got to toughen him up sometimes.
Yeah, we might have a few people that could be a bit surprised if that does actually happen. Rutgers, Maryland, and Michigan State all beat Ohio State.
And Rutgers has Greg Schaller back ahead coach, so he can do something good for Rutgers.
MSU #1 fan, call me crazy on this one. I'm gonna say that none of those teams come within 3 touchdowns of Ohio State this year.
Yeah, it's not gonna be competitive, but it's gonna be. Maybe the first half will be interesting, but the second half probably not. Yeah.
So what else is
we have a lot of fun.
We've got some other calls coming in. Anything else?
Not much. Just a lot of flooding and.
Yeah.
All right. I'll let you go then. All right. Start me on. Beat the trashy Buckeyes.
All right. You take care. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
MSU #1 fan hates Ohio State. That's an understatement. I don't know that we've got anyone that hates another football team as much as she just cannot let go of Ohio State. And I never really thought that out of Michigan State fans, that Ohio State was just a target as much as it is for MSU #1 fan. All right, another call coming in. And if I don't hit the speaker before I hit the other number, man, I have a tough time getting that to come back. Oh, my word. I got to hit the one, I got to hit the speaker, and I got to hit something else. There's like 4 things I got to hit, and if I mess up the order, and it shouldn't be that way. All right, I apologize to whomever was calling in. Our trivia question tonight: which was the last national championship team to have a freshman as their leading rusher? And this, of course, was being asked in 2002. All right, let's try this again.
call or 2 to decline.
Here we go.
The call will start at the beep.
MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Marcus DeAndre, how you doing, man?
DeAndre, what's going on tonight?
Oh, man, nothing, man. I can't believe JT Daniels is going to Georgia.
Yeah, I found that kind of odd myself.
Yeah. I could see if he was going to redshirt for a year, but when I saw the news, I thought it was fake news, something that somebody had to put out there. I was on NCAA 2014 site, and then that showed that JT Daniels is going to what's the color. I said, that can't be true. And then I saw other people putting it out there. I was like, well, it must be true. And it shot the hell out of me, man.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I thought it was maybe some kind of spoof, and so I had to verify it as well. Same thing went through my mind.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I don't know why either one of them. I don't want to pick Georgia, but like Newman, Hartman's pretty good. I think Hartman started a year before Newman did, if I remember right. And
yes.
And I say this, I say that to say this. I thought one of them would have ended up at Oregon or LSU. I know everybody say LSU got a pretty good quarterback that's going to be playing next year, but with the amount of receivers that they have, I thought one of them would have went there instead of Georgia. And I thought also Oregon, with the offensive line that Oregon has, with a good defense coming back, I thought one of them would have picked Oregon, but they both shot me by wanting to go to Georgia. I mean, Georgia, and I'm not trying to pick on Georgia fans or anything, but Georgia hasn't really had a very good track record as to producing great quarterbacks or quarterbacks living up to their potential. I mean, maybe Murray, maybe he did, but I mean, Georgia's pretty much, they might have been 10, 11 wins, but they really never won a championship. With the quarterbacks they had or had great years. Kirby Smart seemed like he's still stuck in the 80s and running this out formation. The same thing that Mark Richt was doing. That's why I don't understand why Georgia fans bash Mark Richt like he did, that way they do. Because Kirby Smart doing the same thing. Great recruit classes, but still no imagination to the offense. And I know they're saying this year they got this new coordinator that's supposed to be throwing the ball a lot more. But I don't get it.
And Mark Richt was running those formations when half the nation, if not more, was running that style of offense as well.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they get on them, but they wouldn't. They really just replaced it with a younger Mark Richt. I tell Georgia fans that all the time, but they be like, "Nah, you just hating because Georgia have all these great recruit classes, but what have we done with them?" So, you know, and another thing, Mark, I want to bring up tonight. Do you see the quarterback talent in the ACC that's coming up here? Sam Howell, Lawrence, the quarterback.
Quarterbacks.
The quarterback talent. Yeah.
Well, let's think about
it. You can even throw Blackman in there if you ever. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, we've got those two. We get the
right.
King. Who else is really, really good in the ACC? I'm trying to think. Anybody else that you can really get excited about?
Virginia Tech guy, the Hooker.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker's. He's good. He's decent.
Bradman got to break out another.
Actually, the Syracuse quarterback was highly recruited, Tommy DeVito.
Right. Bradman got to break out sometime or another.
Well, this is the time to do
it.
You
got to see that. What about another kid that we're not talking about? I think this is third year starting. The kid at Pitt.
Kenny Pickett.
This is going to be his third or fourth year starting. I mean, he eventually got to do
what's odd with Kenny Pickett, with the way Kenny Pickett's been handled there at Pitt, it's very odd because when he took over at Pitt, and his first start was actually against Miami in an upset win against the 10-0 Miami team in 2017, was basically they rolled him out of the pocket and did a lot of play action, and they were a run first, run heavy team, and they completely changed the offense where they threw the ball less than they were like in the bottom 5 in the nation in number of pass attempts. And then the next season, this past season, they threw the ball like the 3rd most in the nation at Pitt.
Right. Right.
I don't know if he's capable of pulling that.
Yeah. And what about Hartman? I mean, he had a pretty good year his freshman year. I think he got hurt or something.
Yeah, he did. He got hurt. He threw 16 touchdowns that year.
Yeah, so I think the ACC got a good group of quarterbacks that's coming up here. Now, I think they're going to be, what more is it, about maybe 2 or 3 years? I think like Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson and probably 1 or 2 more quarterbacks, but I think we got a pretty good quarterback this year. But like I said, I was calling you to talk about the Georgia guy, but that kind of shocked me. I don't know if you touched on it already, but that kind of shocked me, though.
I did. But I started to a couple times, but got interrupted by phone calls. And we've got a Georgia 247 sports guy. I'll probably cut a video with him to talk about it.
Yeah. So, hey, man. Keep up the great work, Mark, man. And I'll keep using the donations to improve your channel, man. I hope it's helping you out with it.
I was just going to say, so I apologize because I'm way behind in the live chat, but I did see your contribution just a second ago fly by. So, DeAndre, I just want to say that, you call me with some great football talk, and we love to talk about what's going on today and what's going on in terms of historical breakdowns. And I appreciate you so much in contributing to the channel. That's very kind of you. And as I mentioned to you on Twitter, anytime you'd like to come on and we can cut a video on any topic you'd like, and we'll do that.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard for me sometimes, bro. I got to get a day when I don't have the kids yelling in the background and when I'm not working.
I hear you.
And they will yell. Oh, like all of a sudden you get on the phone or something, and they all up in your ear. I'm like, Dad, man, what's the hell? You didn't want to talk a minute ago.
Well, it's not like it hasn't happened before on my channel, so it wouldn't be a first. So.
Yes, sir. So I'll try it out, Mark. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, DeAndre. You have a great night.
You too.
Our man DeAndre, and I would spit out his channel, but I screw it up just about every time. Let's get to it right there. There we go. BGPO Football Funk. So BG he's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, black and gold, and then PO is for the purple and orange of Clemson. BGPO Football Funk. So check his YouTube channel out right here as well. Just search BGPO Football Funk. Thanks, DeAndre. Appreciate it. We've got a Florida State football fan who tells us that Dan Mullen will never win the SEC. You might be right. He may never win the SEC. I don't know that anyone's going to hold you accountable if he does win the SEC. So we can say whatever we want. My guess is that Dan Mullen, if somebody held a gun to my head, I would say he will win the SEC. Am I going to be surprised if he has a decent run at Florida for 5, 6, 7 years and goes 10-2, 9-3 most of the time, but never quite gets it done? That is not going to surprise me. There's too many good teams in that league, namely Georgia, Alabama, and LSU right now, that would keep him from winning the SEC, so I wouldn't be surprised. But my guess is that he's going to win the SEC at some point. Eddie the King can't hear me. Hopefully everybody else can hear me. So maybe that's when I stepped away. But unfortunately, the way I've got it set up right now, when I take calls, I don't use my mic so we can hear the calls better. So until I get all this other business set up that I've purchased and not been able to get set up properly, then for right now, this is the way we need to do the calls. Looks like we've got the Buckeyes driving. Just a misconnection from Craig Krenzel to Michael Jenkins in the corner of the end zone, but the Buckeyes are threatening, down 7-0, I believe. I apologize for anybody's comments that I don't get to here, but there's just a lot to get to, so I appreciate it. And certainly, man, this guy right here, Mr. G14 Classified, support Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. Thank you so much, sir. I see that statement that you make in just about every live stream, and I appreciate it. This was an impromptu live stream that I just decided, hey, I got some time, and I don't have to work tonight, so we'll be able to talk some college football. So that's what we're doing. You know, Dennis, Craig Krenzel's NFL career turned out actually much better than I anticipated it would. If you would have asked me when Craig Krenzel was at Ohio State whether he would start an NFL game, I would have told you no. He was a starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears at one point. He had a much, much better NFL career than I would have ever guessed, and most people. And certainly had a better NFL career than any Miami quarterback in the last 15 years. I can't think of any Miami quarterbacks who have been any good going back to this guy, Ken Dorsey. And certainly his NFL career was less than stellar. Bergie, I apologize. So it must be an issue with the mic setup right now, because Bergie's telling me that I fade out big time once the call comes through. So I apologize for that. I think we've just about exhausted our topics right here. One last roll call on the teams, and I apologize if anybody else has a team that they would like to nominate as the best team ever to not win a national championship. 1994 Penn State, and I could certainly give my commentary on all these teams and what they did and whether I think it's a decent nomination, but we'll just run through them. 1994 Penn State, 2002 Miami, 2005 USC, 2012 Ohio State, interesting call there, 2015 North Carolina. Luke, I know you're pulling for North Carolina and trying to get them in there, but 2015 North Carolina, I know that you've got a gripe in the ACC championship game, but really, that 2015 North Carolina team lost to a 4-win, was it 4-win or 3-win, South Carolina team, and was completely and utterly obliterated by Baylor in the next to nothing bowl, the Russell Athletic Bowl. So yeah, good call there by Big Ed. So their legacy for most college football fans is, oh, well, that's a team that got annihilated, shut out by Alabama in the BCS championship game. But if you look closely at what LSU accomplished that year, then you see that they played a murderer's row. 2011 LSU played a ridiculous schedule and dominated that schedule very impressively. So, 2011 LSU. This was the team that lined up, I believe, in week 1 against Oregon. And then they also played West Virginia. Anyway, we'll see it here in a second. Yes. Played number 3 Oregon, neutral site game, beat them by 13. Played a top 25 Mississippi State team, beat them by 13. Played on the road in Morgantown against West Virginia, number 16 ranked, beat them by 26. Beat number 17 Florida by 30. Beat Auburn. They beat the 19th ranked team in the country, Auburn, by 35 points, 5 touchdowns. Then, of course, they had the classic 1-2 game against Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium and won in overtime 9-6. They also beat Arkansas, who was, get this, for college football fans with short memories or those of you who are a bit younger, Arkansas in November of 2011 was ranked, what do you think? Number 3 in the country, Arkansas. And LSU beat them by 24 points. Let this sink in. This LSU team in 2011, great call by Big Ed. I'm right there with you and knew exactly what I was going to see before I pulled it up. Beat number 3 Oregon by 13. Beat number 25 Mississippi State by 13. Beat number 16 West Virginia by 26. Beat.
Due to decline. The call will start at the beep.
Number 17 Florida by 30. Beat Tennessee by 31. Beat number 19 Auburn by 35. Won the big game against Alabama. Beat number 3 Arkansas by 24. Beat number 12 Georgia in the SEC championship game by 32. Had the BCS voters done what was appropriate and sent Oklahoma State to the national championship game, then we would be thinking much different about this LSU team. But they got blown out by Alabama and a superior coach in Nick Saban. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, I know I called a little bit earlier, but it's Nate.
Yes, Nate, what's up?
I forgot to talk about some rivalries because I love rivalries, you know.
Rivalries.
But I'll,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was thinking that I know other rivalries a lot, but would Ohio State? I know they don't have in-state rivalry, but I don't know that for sure. But do you think if Ohio University versus Ohio State University, if I know it's not a big rivalry, but
it's not a rivalry
do you think it will
at all?
Okay.
It's not a big one.
Okay.
Anything.
Okay. So what needs to, well, like for a team, for example, what for Michigan, what rivals for new rivals, like you know how Ohio State's getting new rivals like Clemson and just Clemson because they keep losing to Clemson, and that's kind of building a rivalry a little bit. But do you think that's going to be a rivalry in years or no?
Ohio State and Clemson.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what you determine to be a rivalry.
Okay.
They obviously are in different conferences. They're not true rivals, but if they continue to play at the level that they are, they could run into each other in very important games in the college football playoffs and build what some people would consider a rivalry. Just like over the last 5 years, some people would consider Alabama and Clemson to be a rivalry because of the same thing. Back in the 1970s in the NFL, a lot of people considered the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys to be rivals because they played in Super Bowls against each other. But
I think that's about right. But if I were a coach, for example, I would coach at Nebraska, for example, and let's say I schedule Ohio State every year, not like the last game, but the games before, because I think it's kind of a little rivalry because they play. Nebraska plays Ohio State. Seems like every year, but it's probably gonna die down because conferences. But you know what I mean. Like if Nebraska keeps playing Ohio State, if Nebraska wins, I don't know, but you know what I mean, or or
not really following your point on this one, Nate. So again, why don't you make a list of the rivals that you think are emerging rivalries? We can discuss it sometime.
Like next time, you mean?
Sure.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for the second.
Thanks.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Yep.
So again, we'll run through the teams that have been nominated as best teams not to win national championships, and many of them blew games, and other ones, in the case of Penn State 1994, they did all they could do. They won all the games and just were not awarded the national championship. 1994 Penn State, 2002 Miami, 2005 USC, 2012 Ohio State. Again, Luke, love your contribution to the channel. Love your support. You're always here making great comments. I know you're a very knowledgeable fan, but 2015 North Carolina, shaky, shaky, shaky. Tyler, absolutely. I should do a video on this Auburn team right there. They got ripped off.
Got the call or two to
Again,
decline.
it was the system. What do you do?
The call will start at the
You
beep.
only have a championship game. You don't have a playoff. What are you going to do? The only reason that 2003 Auburn did not play in the national championship is because of the preseason rankings. USC was 1, Oklahoma was 2. So there was a ceiling. And as long as those two teams did not lose, which is exactly what happened, then Auburn went all the way from preseason, I believe, number 19, vaulted all the way to number 3, and then they were stuck. There was a ceiling. So they couldn't. Can you imagine an SEC team in 2020 or in any time in the last 10 years going undefeated and not being given consideration to play for the national championship? Crazy. And then couple that with, we did a video on 1983 Auburn, and they, to a certain extent, had a claim to win a national championship. So Auburn could have some more national titles. MarkRogersTV, Voice of College Football, who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Big Ed again.
Hey, Ed.
And I actually wanted to call and talk about 2003 myself. That's pretty interesting, I think. But about the split national championship, and how do you think that played out, and do you agree with it?
You're talking about 2003 with LSU and USC.
Yes, sir.
It's what the system was. We had 3 undefeated teams from 3 major conferences that all had great resumes, and only 2 teams could go to the BCS championship game. Well, 2000. Oh, wait a minute. We're mixing up years here. So, 2004. 2004 is the year we're thinking of here. 03.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the LSU USC split in 03, or are we talking about Auburn in 04?
I'll only caught the last bit of that conversation, but yes, LSU and USC.
So, of course, LSU and USC should have played in 03. That's what should have happened. But the stupid BCS formula awarded an Oklahoma team that had lost the Big 12 championship game by 4 touchdowns to go to the national championship game for the BCS championship game against LSU. So we never got to see LSU and USC play, which I got to think that would have been one for the ages. That would have been a great, great game. So we did not see the 2 teams play that should have been playing.
Huh. Well, that's what I was also going to ask about 2007.
Yep.
How things just, I know that LSU kind of got lucky and got into the game because of everybody else that was losing ahead of them, you know. Do you like seasons like that when more parity is involved, or do you like some more straightforward contenders?
I would like to see more parity. So before I continue with that point, we need to make a correction in the. Everybody's talking about 2003 Auburn. That was 2004 Auburn. 2003 was the national championship split between USC and LSU. So anyway, now for as much as I love college football, and that's why we're all here, we love college football. And the products on the field is amazing, and everything surrounding college football, the pageantry, the tradition, the fervency, the fans, the cheerleaders, the bands, all that is tremendous. I really don't like sitting here in the middle of the summer and knowing that the National College Football Playoff is going to be something to the tune of Alabama or LSU, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Clemson, some combination of those teams, and maybe somebody else sneaks in.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see a crazy season like 2007.
A lot of people need heart medication for that season.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like 4 straight number 2s lost?
Yeah, West Virginia was in there, and
Oh.
Missouri, and Kansas probably, and yeah. Can you imagine if we played a college football season this year and you had the likes of West Virginia, Kansas, Missouri, and South Florida that were competing for a national championship, you know, that were in the national title race at the end of the season?
Mm-hmm. You know, for a while there, I think some people were thinking that these conferences were just going to play each other randomly or have different seasons. And I'm thinking maybe we could have seen something like that this season, you know.
So what are you calling for there?
I'm not. I also heard that maybe at one point, you know, a couple months ago, that some teams may have split from their conferences and play seasons with other conferences. And I'm thinking that might have caused a little more parity, you know.
Sure.
Would you have liked to seen that or no?
So when you're talking about like a basketball format where an entire conference plays another conference, top to bottom?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun if you seeded all the teams in the Big Ten and all the teams in the SEC, and let's say in week 2, Ohio State and LSU played, and Alabama and Penn State played, and on down the line. That would be a pretty good barometer of which league was better. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'd like to see Clemson play a few more SEC powerhouse and maybe an Ohio State, Wisconsin, Penn State, something like that. I wish that they could orchestrate the schedules to where you could have to have more competitive games, but that's just dreaming.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard my scheduling system, but we would see more of that.
I may not have, but I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah, so basically my thought is, let's say everybody plays 9 conference games. That means you're going to then play 3 out-of-conference games. And I don't know why scheduling is placed in the hands of the teams. We should have a scheduling formula instead of letting teams run around and schedule their own games. That's why we have such a discrepancy between, we've got teams that have just brutal non-conference schedules. Like I know Stanford a couple of years ago played Northwestern when they were really good, Notre Dame and UCF non-conference. And then we've got teams like Baylor who play nobody ever non-conference. So I would allow the teams to play one game where they can go schedule an FCS team or a Group of 5 team, and then the other 2 teams that they would play would have to have a composite 500 record in conference from the previous season. So everyone would play an equal schedule. So there would be none of this team plays a really tough non-conference schedule, this other team plays nobody. Everybody would play 2 quality opponents.
Yep. That sounds good, but then you'd have a little more controversy at the end of the year when all your powerhouses have 1 or 2, maybe even 3 losses, I think that's kind of interesting.
I just think that's the equitable way to approach it, is to try to balance the schedule so we have a better way of determining who's good and who's not good.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. Well, I guess I'll get on out of here.
All right, Big Ed.
All right, thanks.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. All right, folks, we've taken in a little Ohio State-Miami first half here. Lamar Stevens with a contribution. Would love to get that to the screen to credit him. Lamar, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. We'll let everyone know that you can contribute to the channel a number of ways. So please at least like the video. Please like the video and like all the videos. And if you want to just give me like 3 or 4 minutes of your time, just go through the videos and just do, like. YouTube loves it. That's the only, it's not to feed my ego, like looking at your Facebook feed and saying, oh, I posted a picture and it got 82 likes. No, doesn't matter to me, but the YouTube algorithms love the likes and will push the videos into the traffic for other people to see them. Again, Lamar, thank you so much. I'll need to answer your question. What year in the 2000s would have produced an 18 playoff with the most parity? Well, certainly 2007 comes to mind because there was little distinction between, we had a 2-loss national champion that year, and it was just chaos the last 2 to 3 weeks of the season. So that's the easy answer, and it's probably the right answer, because every other season we see a distinction between, okay, these 2 teams were the best, or these 3 teams were the best, or these 2 got screwed out of a national championship. They were nearly as good as the 2 teams that made it. But man, that's a year where LSU lost 2 games in overtime, both of the games in overtime, so they didn't lose a game in regulation, and then they took on a pretty good Ohio State team. Obviously, they made a national championship team, but not a vintage Ohio State team, and beat them by 2 touchdowns in the national championship game. So I think LSU, I'm comfortable with them winning the national title to a certain extent, at least under that format. But man, you had Missouri and Kansas and Oklahoma and Ohio State and West Virginia, and USC was really good. Maybe LSU and USC were the 2 best teams in the country, and should have been playing in the national title game based on talent and ability on the roster. But Lamar, that is your easy answer, but sometimes the easy answer is the correct answer. 2007, all that chaos tells us that would have been the playoff with the most parity top to bottom. Every other year, we could clearly see, okay, 2003, LSU, USC, Auburn. I'm mixing up years, 2003 and 4. LSU and USC seemed like the best teams. LSU had a pretty good hurt on Oklahoma. It was only a 21-14 game. They were clearly the better team in the Sugar Bowl, so there was a bit of a drop-off. And you would see that in most years among the top 8 teams. But 2007, would be the best example of parity from 1 to 8 in a playoff. All right, everyone, I appreciate it. And again, Lamar, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. I want to remind everyone that you can contribute right here at the Super Chat, or if you go down to the description section of any of the videos, and there's a way in which you can contact me at Venmo or PayPal and contribute to the channel there. And also, of course, man, if we could get this thing rolling, just think about this. I've got almost 20,000 subscribers. And I'm thinking that most of you, somebody in your household shops Amazon. And if you use the description, the link in the description section of any of the videos, grab that link. It's the same exact shopping experience. There is nothing any different about it. Use that link. You help us build the channel. Just ignore the product that you see when you click on the link. Just do your regular Amazon shopping, and you help us build the channel. And if we got half of you out of 20,000 subscribers to shop on Amazon using our link, then man, I might be doing this full time, and we'd be doing call-in shows every night. And I'd be dissecting every national championship season from the beginning of time. All right, be looking out for our team previews coming up very soon. Boston College, Penn State, Maryland, Arkansas, Michigan, Nebraska off the top of my head. Also, SEC coaches rankings, SEC top 5 quarterbacks, running backs, defensive linemen, and wide receivers. Top 5 in the Pac-12 at quarterback and running back, and top 5 Big Ten quarterbacks. And also our national championship replays from 1983, 84, and 90. And so much more as we approach our 2020 college football season right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. 100 days away, and hopefully that calendar does not change, and we stay on schedule, stay safe, and we see college football here in 2020. Let me see if we've got any more comments. Jesse, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Aiden, that's a tremendous call. Iowa, dark horse to make the playoffs. Sean Mack, good call on 2009 Florida. And you know what? I've started this about 50 times, and I want to complete it so all of you can hear the list of everyone who submitted a team that was a great team that did not win the national championship. So I'm going to try one more time. Here we go. 2015 Ohio State. 1982 Nebraska. Well done by somebody out there. 1998 Florida State. 95 Ohio State. 2000 Miami. Mike points that out right there. 2000 Miami. 97 Florida State. Some of these teams under the radar all time. So it's a great call by some of you out there. 2010 would have been a fun playoff. Yes, Lamar, great call there. We could run down the 2010 season sometime. 2018 Ohio State, an interesting decision there. 03 USC, they did, to a certain extent, win the national championship, according to the AP. Got 2011 LSU. We talked about that team that ran through a murderer's row during the regular season. 94 Nebraska. 94 Nebraska did win the national championship. Yes. I don't know why somebody threw them out. 94, 95, 97 Nebraska won the national championship. Okay. 2012 Texas A&M. Interesting. Tyler, good call on Texas A&M. Dark horse to make the playoffs. Okay. 2017 Oklahoma. 2003 Auburn, of course. But actually, I believe you mean 04 Auburn. 2009, Florida was just served up by our guy, Shane Mack. Good call. 2009, Florida. Sean Mack, I'm sorry. Excuse me, Sean. 2009, Florida, of course, was undefeated coming off a national championship season in 08. Lost to Alabama in the SEC title game. 07, Georgia, 2 losses, but annihilated Hawaii and was, by some estimations, the best team in the country that season. 2015 Clemson, 16 Alabama. Of course, they beat each other in 15 and 16. 2019 Ohio State, 2009 Texas. Colt McCoy knocked out of the game. Gilbert, lost track of his name. Garrett Gilbert, leading Texas to a 24-21 game with about 6 minutes left. Ohio State in 2006, we talked about them. 94 Penn State, 02 Miami, 05 USC, 2012 Ohio State on probation, undefeated, and 2015 North Carolina, as delivered by Mr. Luke Walker. Right here, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We'll see you on Sunday night, our call-in show on Sunday night. Also, tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, Ohio State Live. We'll see you then.